Good morning, this is the COT data for day for the week beginning the 18th of March 2024. The euro has ticked higher. We've come from 66,000 to 74,000, so it's definitely seen an increase. However, the dollar has also seen an increase as we've come from 3,000 to 6,000. So I think the euro USD is going to be quite tricky this week because we've got the FOMC. We could also be a little bit heavy on the indices. We could be due a breather on risk appetite. If so, the dollar can perform quite well in a risk-off environment. You tend to see a flight to safety in the dollar when there's quite a lot of worry and fear and stuff. But we have to remember we are very much risk-on, technically, on the indices, but they could be due a breather, and the FOMC could be a catalyst for a little bit of a risk-off scenario. And well, we'll just have to wait and see, but basically FOMC is the risk event this week. I'd imagine that the dollars might appreciate going into the FOMC, and then there'll be a rug pull, and then the dollar will soften, and then things will be risk on, right? So that's possible scenarios that we might see a little bit of dollar strength Monday, Tuesday, a little bit of Wednesday, and then Wednesday they'll pull the rug, and those positions they'll be sucked up. And we can resume the risk-on theme on the indices, and the dollar could probably soften, and the euro can continue higher. So I think Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday might be a bit phony, and where we're going to see a little bit of dollar strength. And then on Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, we'll see some weakness in the dollar, and then we'll be risk-on for the weekend. So that's what I think might happen, and they use the FOMC as a good reason to justify the reversal, and it's basically like liquidity probes and stop hunts and stuff like that. So it's a little bit tricky with the Euro USD. We have a robot in the quasi-DB system that uses the Euro USD, but it won't open up any trades this week, well, until we get to strong buy. We are not strong buy on the Euro USD, we are now buy, so we've come away from strong buy, so that's probably a sign in itself. If we come from strong buy to buy, we could go to neutral, and then from neutral is then sell. Okay, so we've got to be really careful. So I think this week is going to be quite tricky for the Euro USD. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, it should be okay for the USD longs. But we'll wait and see, okay? And of course, we've got the BOJ as well, and that's a big risk event in itself. And we'll have to see how the banks are positioned, and they've come away from that extreme. So we are bearish, we have to remember, but we're less bearish than we were a week prior. So we saw an increase there. We are very much below zero, but we've come away. So that's ticking higher, and so is this. So there, we can't really ascertain a signal from the Euro USD or the Euro Yen or the Dollar Yen, because they're all going in ascendance. So that's going to be quite tricky. The Dollar Yen and the Euro USD won't be particularly easy. By the way, the Howard have really shorted the UJ, which I might be able to show you. Yeah, there. Right, they've really gone bearish Dollar Yen. Okay, so that's normally a good sign for longs. But you want to be careful because we've got the BOJ. But just a little bit of insight there for the Dollar Yen. Okay, where's the thing? We're going to go back. So yeah, got to be a bit careful about the euro, especially because of the FOMC. And we've got the BOJ as well. Aussie on, euro off. Aussie is now ticking down and the yen is ticking higher. We may get the Aussie yen sell signal when we have the two lines crossing. So that will be of note, and then that will be a traditional speaking risk off indication. If the Aussie sells off against the yen, that's normally a good risk off sign. So could be quite an interesting week ahead. Like I said at the very top of this video, is that we could be due a breather on the indices. If AJ makes a sell, then that would just be like an additional requirement for a risk off scenario. Yeah, we'll get the sell signal when they cross, but we haven't got the cross yet. Okay, so be careful there. Aussie has been sold off, but while the yen has been bought. Okay, Aussie off, pound on. Pound's probably going to be quite strong, I guess. It's actually quite strong. We broke that resistance, which I didn't think was going to happen. 46, 50, 58, and 70. So we're at the highs for a long time now, for a good 2 years. So quite bullish on the pound. So be careful about shorting pound. We do have the general election that's coming up this year, but you'll find there's a lot of elections this year all around the world. But I know from experience that the GE, the general election, is very volatile for the pound, and you can make a lot of money if you're positioned correctly, and you can also lose a bit of money as well if you're not positioned in the right way. So I remember when Scotland were going to leave the UK and the pound went absolutely yo-yo, and it was one of the best days I've ever had trading. So you can make quite a lot of money, but you've got to be careful because of its erratic nature and depending on the actual outcome of the vote. So I imagine it will be bullish sterling if the Conservatives remained in power. But I'm not a politician, so it's going to be a big year for the pound. But we can see currently it's quite strong, and we've broken that resistance. So that's in ascendancy. That is, the yen is, and so the Aussie isn't. Okay, so pound off, CAD on. Let's see what this looks like. And the CAD's fallen, so that's negative on the CAD, right? So we come nearly above the zero line, and we've sort of had quite a strong reaction there. So fairly bearish on the CAD. Okay, CAD off. Gold's going to be interesting. It's still capped a little bit. 207, 201,000. So yeah, we've got that big old resistance up here as well. But they are quite long, and they've added long, right? So you can see that it's ticked higher on gold. And coming to the end of the video, New Zealand dollar, and we got the NU sell because the dollar's ticked higher, where the New Zealand dollar's ticked lower. Okay, so another thing, going back to the sheet, GDP scores, NU, right? They started the week at 15%. And now they're 86% long, right? So they've come from one extreme to the other. It's just been a roller coaster week last week in terms of retail positioning. They've gone from being very short to very long in the space of 5 days. That's a huge move, and so it was a buy, and now it's a sell. Okay, but the thing is, if it's going to do a big whipsaw like it did last week, it could do it again this week. So we've got to be really careful when we're seeing these violent moves, huge moves. So this is where we started at the week for GU, and that's where we are now. So we are above 50%, so we're actually a sell at the big picture. But we were very, very skewed at the start of the week. How did we do in GU? We had an okay week, 22. Oh, okay. No, we didn't have a very good week on GU, and we had quite a poor day on Friday. But the reason for that is the big shifting on sentiment, because we were a buy, and of course they've had to add, and now they've gone so much as that we've tipped over the 50%, and we're now sell. So that explains that move there, the shifting. We've actually had quite a poor week on GU. So we might be setting up for a buy opportunity looking at the COT data. But because we've got FOMC, you'd want to be really careful around the dollar. So, according to the COT data, we could be buying the pound. However, the retail sentiment, they've basically jumped the gun. And they've gone quite long. They were very short, and now they're going long. Alright, so they got squished. They jumped the gun probably 1 week too early, maybe you could argue. Okay, so a little bit of discrepancy there with the COT data and the retail sentiment, because at this high, big picture level, it's a sell. Look at the COT data, it's actually looking quite strong. So, It might be set up for a buy opportunity, but you want to be really careful. Perhaps after the FOMC, it will be a lot clearer. And I don't know what they're going to add, what Powell's going to say. So we could just be continuing the risk on theme, soft dollar, and then the pound USD could be a buy opportunity after the press conference. Perhaps Monday, Tuesday is just going to be a bit wishy-washy, and Wednesday we'll see the true moves, and then we can look for buying cable. That's a probable situation what I might do, I think. So that's that. All we need to do is Swiss franc, but we're probably going to be sideways. So I think it's going to be a case of just being careful Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I think. And we are just sideways on the Swiss franc. So in an ideal world, this data here is reflective of the retail sentiment. This is immediate, of course, and it's real time. This is from Tuesday, so it's obviously got a big delay. All right, so it's from there. So there has been a lot of repositioning since. So obviously it's very powerful. It tells us what the banks are doing, but it's from that day, and there's a lot of stuff that can happen in the days preceding the cut over. So hopefully that helps. I think pound USD is probably going to be a buy setup, but you'd want to be careful if they're going from one extreme, because they can then go to the other extreme, couldn't they? But like I say, Aussie USD as well, they were very short and now they're really long in the space of 5 days. So it's very bonkers. Got to be careful, remember to trade safely, and I'll speak to you guys tonight for the evening bulletin. And then don't forget, all the bulletins are going out in the evening each day now.